No cannonballs! No cannonballs! Mr. Hausman, if you do another cannonball, I'm going to have to contact hotel management.
Sorry. Do you live, eat, and sleep the hotel industry? Looking to brush up on your game? You've come to the right place. Welcome to No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast, with your host, Glenn Hausman. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the No Vacancy podcast with me, your host, Glenn Hausman. Man, am I excited to have each and every one of you here with me this week. Oh, although I'm not so excited about us being in the thick of summer right now. Yes, I love summer, but I'm already panicking. It's going to be over. Thank God I haven't seen any of those back-to-school commercials as of yet. All right, so today I am in New York City. Excited about that. Okay, I'm lying. I'm not too excited about that because who wants to be in the city in July? It's a great Friday as I'm recording this interview. And one of the things that I remember from living in the city for, 20 plus years was in the summer it was great because everybody either went to the Jersey Shore or out to the Hamptons and the city was empty. And it was the only time I was able to find a parking space, especially when I lived in Brooklyn. But before we get into our guest today, I wanted to ask you guys, hey, get out there and reshape your expectations of what an FF&E distribution partner for hospitality could be. And I want each and every one of you guys to make Almo Hospitality your go-to partner to simplify FF&E deployments for the guest room and beyond with industry-leading brands, the latest hospitality trends, and distinctive new-to-market brands coupled with their specialized business development and hospitality-dedicated sales teams. You know Almo Hospitality is a division of Almo Corporation, and you already know those guys are the nation's largest independent distributor of professional audio-video, consumer electronics, major appliances, outdoor furniture, and housewares. Be sure to find them at hospitality.almoproav.com. That's hospitality.almoproav.com. You're going to love these guys. They are some of the nicest folks that I've had the opportunity to work with. Love these guys, and you are going to love them too. Now, if you haven't yet subscribed to the No Vacancy podcast, what are you doing? Come on, do it. Stop everything you're doing right now. The dog walking can wait. Go onto iTunes, Google Play, and wherever you get your shows, and just download to the No Vacancy podcast feed, or check out our hotel design podcast, or check out Checking In with Anthony and Glenn, which I do, of course, with Anthony Melchiori of TV's Hotel Impossible. All right, enough of that homework. Let's bring in our guest, Mr. Derek Gagne of EDSA, a really cool firm that helps make everything outdoors of the hotel experience look freaking awesome. Derek, how are you, man?
I am good, thanks. Thanks for coming by.
So I appreciate you being here. We're actually, we're recording this in their office today, and you guys have Summer Fridays, and you're the only one here. The entire team is off, doing something.
I am. I have the weekend to enjoy some time, so I'm good.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I got to tell you, I think it's a great policy to get people to take that day off. We work so much during the year, and it's so hard to balance that work and life kind of a thing.
It is,
Now, you told me just before we started recording, you used to have people come in for a few hours and then send them home, but then they wouldn't leave. So what made you
we're
say...
we're trying to make sure that people can enjoy the time in the summer when they need it. We're all working hard, and we realize that sometimes the half day you get stuck here and you feel guilty about leaving, and deadlines happen. So we're like, let's close for the whole day this summer on Fridays.
Yeah, I had a job once where we had the Summer Friday stuff going on, but it was one of those things where it was for the boss's sake, so he could say he did it, but then if you tried leaving, it would be like, why are you leaving? You still have work to do.
Exactly.
Right? But then he'd be like, I'm a great guy. I gave you Summer Fridays, right? Yeah. Thanks for that one. So for the folks out there who don't know what EDSA is, maybe you could give us a quick understanding so they have a frame of reference for everything we're talking about here today.
Perfect. So EDSA is a landscape architecture, planning, and urban design firm. We've been around for next year will be 60 years. So
how long?
It's old. 60.
60. You look pretty good for a guy in his 80s.
Yeah. Well, I am getting up there with some of the senior partners, but the firm was started by Edward Durrell Stone back in the 60s.
I'm going to guess that had something to do with EDS Associates, probably.
Yeah, so exactly. And that's, when he started the firm 60 years ago down in Florida, there was a lot of work going on in the Caribbean and Florida. Tourism was picking up, and it became the home of the company and still is our main headquarters down there. And then we have offices in Orlando, Baltimore, New York, and overseas in Shanghai. So, yeah, we're all kind of around the world with the work and our locations.
That's pretty cool. So one of the things that I really wanted to talk to you about is I feel like we spend in the hospitality industry so much our energy and our efforts talking about what's going on inside the building.
Right.
And a lot of times we're not really thinking about what's going on outside.
Yeah.
And in this world of experiential travel that we have right now, people really want to do stuff outside. In particular, with the rise of extended stay hotels, it's becoming much, much more important. You feel like the industry is finally coming up to speed with what you guys are doing on a day-to-day basis?
I think that all of our clients in the industry are realizing the value of not just putting money into great rooms, but having a full experience, a well-rounded experience. And I think that everything we're doing now, it's about capturing a guest, what can get a guest to a property. And of course, the room needs to be great. The F&B needs to be great, but what's going to keep them on property or drive them off property, but still have that hotel kind of guiding them in that experience.
Yeah. And, this is applicable for select service hotels, extended stay hotels, but I think a great entry point would be to start to talk about some of the amazing projects you're doing for these massive resorts that are out there. Yeah. So maybe we could talk about the fact that you guys just helped create a brand new outdoor poolscape for the Venetian area. Really modernized it, brought it into the 2020s as we're approaching right now. So tell me a little bit about that project and how that fits into what you do every single day around here.
Yeah. I think that the one thing with the Venetian is it's also ties into an interesting trend we're seeing, which is renovation. A lot of properties that have been around a while, whether we did the first round of design or not, they're looking at reinventing themselves. And I think that they look to us because of our long history in the profession on how we can bring something new to that.
And we've got to be about 20 years-ish since Venetian opened, right? I want to say it was like 98, it was 99.
So I think that this one falls under that trend as well as a few others we're doing. Right. Another good example of that is the Four Seasons in Nevis. We're on our third round of renovations with them over 20 years.
Wow.
So it's something that we can build rapport with a client. And on Venetian, we hadn't worked on the property before, but we knew a lot of the team players that were bringing the new vision to it and some of the new excitement. So they asked us to come in and rethink about it. And there was a couple things happening. One was, how do we recreate a special experience for the guest? It's not just this massive singular pool, but how can we, the minute someone steps out onto that pool deck, how can they make a decision? One, I want to go to this room or this room. It was kind of creating a collection and a room of pools and experiences that some are more family friendly, some are more kind of be seen and showy. And then there's also the more intimate kind of arrival to the spa component. So
that's fascinating to me. So it's instead of having one outdoor experience, you're actually breaking it down into what different psychographics might want or different moods might want. Hey, today I want to be partying and have a little bit more of the drink. I'm outside in Las Vegas, or I just want to have a more intimate experience.
Exactly. And I think that the Venetian has realized that their guest varies. I mean, they have a huge conference crowd. They have a huge crowd that's associated with events going on. So you're going to have a lot of people looking for different experiences. And one of the most challenging but fun things with the Venetian was reimagining what Venetian is. What is Italian in a contemporary kind of idea without it being all Roman columns?
And to fill in folks that don't or haven't been to the Venetian yet, which I find highly suspect if you haven't been at this point, especially if you're an American citizen, it really is more, the inside of Venetian is much more based on history and classical designs, and so was the pool deck originally.
Exactly.
So what was the change of the thinking in the Venetian world that made them want to go ahead and let you guys redesign the entire thing to be much more of a modern approach that's kind of reinventing the pool experience?
Yeah, I think that one thing was that they were just realizing that their guest was looking for more, I think the thing in Vegas is that, everything has turned to being not so casino driven.
Right. And as a note, 60% of revenue is now earned off off the casino
Right.
floor as opposed to on the gaming floor. And when it comes to younger millennial people, in fact, they're not really as interested in the casino as older generations.
Exactly.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No, exactly. That's a good point, because it's looking also for them to be able to figure out how they can capture
Right.
revenue from the pool deck. You know, how can they capture an audience that wants to have a drink there, rent a cabana for the day? I mean, these massive super cabanas that we have designed have spas associated with them. They have giant TVs. They have full service. They're air conditioned. This is a place that you can rent for the entire day with 20 of your friends and hang out as a whole experience. You never have to leave the hotel.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that. So tell me a little bit more about massive cabanas and what that's like. Because, a lot of times people want to charge me to stay in a cabana, and they could charge me a couple of $100, and it's really just a little thing I could have bought at Dick's Sporting Goods you could set up and
Right.
put away, right?
Right.
And maybe a couch and maybe an old plug-in fridge. So set the stage for what the experience is really like and why you thought those elements are so critical to making guests at the Venetian really want to spend more money.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely bringing a high level of glamour to Vegas. I mean, on other projects we've worked with, we've done this where, we're taking an outdoor furniture plan, we're taking a kind of creating an outdoor room for someone to enjoy, and the Venetian has really just turned that up a notch with the finishes, the quality, and the service. I mean, from the minute somebody would check in at the pool deck, leave their hotel, come down the elevator, walk out onto the deck, they'd be greeted, and they would be guided by concierge that will take them to their cabana, and introduce them to all the amenities. But the fact that they are air conditioned, the fact that they have full service, and then have both a dining experience that you can have at the cabana, but the level of quality of finishes is really what keys in. I mean, the client has always told us we want these to look lush from a planting point of view. We want them to feel very glamorous from a materials point of view. And I think that we've achieved that. It's exciting to kind of think about how all this is going to come together in some of the final imagery we're going to get to see from the project.
Because right now I'm looking over your shoulder and still seeing a lot of drawings and photos of construction. So I'm kind of trying to imagine what the whole thing is like there. But what really strikes me is this fundamental understanding of how to create the scene that gets people to loosen their wallets and spend a lot more, and creating that cohesive environment that has that spa element to it, that has that dining element to it, and even the air conditioning. I think is a really secret tactic, a smart weapon that gets people to stay on the pool deck a whole lot longer if they're getting a cabana.
Exactly, and a lot of the information and the input that we have from the client on this project is key. I mean, knowing what the group spend will be, knowing what they're looking for revenue, that is what really kind of drove the design. It's not like we're just coming out of left field with some of these designs and not knowing that they're going to fit the market. But it was a great experience, a great team to work with over there at Las Vegas Sands.
Now, Las Vegas is a little bit of of an odd duck when it comes to the overall hospitality market, because it has a very, very different point of view, I would think. But I think I see from the pictures you're reinventing pools, stuff that I've seen at very high-end luxury resorts in Mexico 10 years ago. Like, I love that you're putting the lounge chairs in the water. I guess it looks like on a higher platform, only a couple of feet deep, as opposed to the rest of the pool.
Little chaise deck, I mean, the
chaise deck, that's what it's called.
The ability for people to kind of relax right in the water. It can create this kind of, along the trend of kind of urban resorts. We did the Cosmopolitan years ago.
Oh, you did the Cosmopolitan?
Yeah, we did all the pool experiences.
That pool experience, when I walked into that hotel for the first time and saw that pool deck, I was really blown away. Especially that one pool deck that could be turned into
on the Boulevard pool.
Yeah, the one out front. The one that's on. If you guys look out, if you're on the Strip and you see that pool deck that's right up there, they could actually take away the pool and make it a performance space.
Or an ice rink in the winter. It's an ice rink. So it was one of our first forays into kind of the Vegas landscape, and we were brought in by the related companies back in the day, and they said, we just need you guys to take this up a notch, because we this is a urban resort, but we know that your experience in hospitality can bring that kind of level of sophistication, but also there's something that you need there to make people feel comfortable. It can't just all be hardscape and very, very sleek when you have these tall glass towers behind you. So Cosmopolitan has kind of stood the test of time over the last 7-8 years, and it's went through a couple kind of little renovations as far as the furniture and everything, but it's really kind of stood out as one that we're proud of, and obviously our Venetian client knew that we had did that one too.
Yeah, of course. That's pretty cool. So, being that you're mentioning urban resorts, I know I really want to talk about urban resorts today. When you look at an urban resort experience versus a traditional resort experience, what are some of the things that you need to start thinking about at first in order to create something that's great and that's going to get people to want to stay there and spend their money?
Yeah, I think that obviously one of the biggest issues is how do you capture that audience, right? Because it's like you need a very vibrant program of activity happening. You don't have waves on a beach that are just something beautiful to sit and stare at. You have to create the excitement, and that can go in a lot of directions. At the Hard Rock Tampa that's opening soon, that we were a part of designing, again, a roof deck experience. We've designed in these kind of shade structures on each end of the pool deck, but what those really are DJ booths. That like when there's time for a DJ and music and that live kind of hard rock experience to happen, there's a place for that to happen. And when there's not a show happening, it just simply provides the shade that people need when they're lounging out there. So it's kind of creating that diversity at that pool at Hard Rock. There's also kind of one pool that's designed in a way that it's a little bit more elevated in the cabana finishes and the style of the pool, so that if there wants to be an event, it's easier to kind of rope that off and create this kind of VIP experience.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. So even though you're creating a guest-focused resort in the urban landscape, you also need to have it serve multiple purposes. And to me, it sounds a lot like what select service hotels are thinking about on the inside, where they have different day parts, so they want to have different moods and experiences. How do you go ahead and successfully create something that works for the swimming part of the day and maybe for the late night when, I think particularly here in New York City, and I kind of joke around that it's almost by law you have to have a rooftop deck now, right? So
it's pretty popular.
So I'm thinking that you don't just want to have the pool during the day. You want to have some sort of activation in the evening hours too.
Yeah, and actually one of the things that's been pretty common on all the properties we're working on is that the kind of corporate event space is really important. And that ability to have flexibility designed into the project, where a corporate event that's renting your conference center, having meetings, can kind of do a breakout happy hour and transition a pool deck with chaises to an outdoor kind of function that might only last a couple hours. And it might actually give that pool deck 3 uses during the day. Your day user who's swimming, your happy hour for your corporate event, and then your nighttime kind of more party scene, if that's part of the program for for
Yeah, and it really should be part of the property, because you can make a lot of money doing all that, right? That's pretty cool. So you're not just working with Venetian. You're not just working with Hard Rock Tampa. You're also part of this I want to say, bad pun here, Seminole project over at the Hard Rock in Hollywood on the east coast of Florida. And if you guys don't know that project, you know that project. It's the massive giant Qatar hotel building that's going up that's going to totally reinvent that entire resort over there. But there's a whole lot of new pool space, a whole lot of clever stuff that you're doing in the outside areas that I think is going to really up the whole notion of experience too, besides that gorgeous building.
Exactly. And that's another property we worked on years ago with the existing hotel tower and the resort experience that's there, which will remain through this expansion. But the whole new pool experience here is really an experience. They were obviously, that guitar tower was driving a lot of the major design aesthetic of the property, but when you come down to ground level, we had to kind of create a new language, because there needed to be this level of tropical environment, somewhere someone wants to come and hang out. And the client, knowing that their competitor is South Beach, Miami, the whole coast of Florida, there's a lot of options there for them to choose from. So we really kind of approach this with fresh ideas that are taking the guest out onto the water and really allowing them to interact with the water as much as possible. So we have a set of cabanas there where you can swim out from your terrace. There's also a set of rooms there at ground level in one of the hotel wings that you can simply simply step down off of your own private deck and swim along the rooms.
It sounds like you're trying to bring some of the feeling I would get if I was in the Maldives,
Yes,
for example.
Exactly. At some points in our imagery and the kind of concepting of the project, there was definitely a Bora Bora feel going on there.
And we're talking about, those amazing rooms that are usually hover over the ocean.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So on this one, the authenticity of that and trying to bring a little bit of that, but also create our own identity, was using kind of contemporary forms, but paying respect to natural materials, a lot of natural stone, a lot of wood or wood-looking material that really kind of creates that ability. I mean, palm trees grow rampant in Florida, so that's easy. We can create that tropical feel with the planting, but it's really like looking at that whole set of materials to kind of recreate a place that that can be a fun active zone, but also a place where someone can go to kind of relax and get away from it all for a bit.
That's interesting, where you're trying to find the balance between active and more of that sense of soothing and calm. How do you program both of those things into the same area without the action excited part really spilling over into that calm area?
I think that there's a couple ways. I mean, some is with physical divide, some is with elevation change and kind of creating club pool experiences, which the Hard Rock will have. But I think,
well, you have to. I mean, it just makes so much money.
The client and is demanding that, so we can have that. But I think that the other thing is just even within a large pool deck, that's kind of for the masses and for everyone to feel comfortable at. It's just about creating little niches where people can kind of get away and have what we find people look for the most is having their back to something that they feel safe with, right? You can sit in a corner and kind of relax and look out. A lot of resort experience is people watching, and it's like, where do you want to be when you're doing that? Whether you're reading a book or relaxing, but you always want to be comfortable in where you're seated and never feel like you're on display unless
you want to be
that's
on
what they're going for.
Or unless you're a celebrity that wants to pretend they're not on display while being on display.
Exactly. Oh, these sunglasses I'm wearing? I don't know what you're talking about.
That's hysterical. So, I think it's probably a little bit more tough when you're talking about some of these massive casino resort projects to have that sense of cultural authenticity. But you do a lot of projects around the world. We talked about how you have offices in China and other parts of the world as well. So, let's talk about a project that you've done that is able to hew more closely to cultural norms of wherever you are. And let's talk a little bit about what that process. So what's a great project that you think really reflects that?
Well, I think that going back 20 years, we were working in Dubai. We came into Dubai when all of the development started over there.
And just to give the listeners a little bit note, that is amazing that you were in there right at the beginning, because that's right when the country decided that they knew they were going to run out of oil in 50 years, and they wanted to become the vacation and financial hub of the Middle East. So you guys know how much money they spent and all the development that happened there. That must have been really fascinating.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was the same way that we kind of go into unknown places these days. We went in 25 years ago and not knowing what to expect, but there were projects that were developed back then, Medina Jumeirah, the one and only, a lot of these projects that really set the tone for what a resort in the Middle East is.
I mean, you guys are in the mix of the most amazing properties.
Yeah, and some of those that have matured over 20 years are now kind of set the standard. And the greatest thing is that even though some of those I was not involved personally in the design of, to go to those projects while we're there working on new things and see that they've been fully accepted by local culture, and that there's a full mix of locals and tourists at these resorts. And that authenticity alone, for a local to feel like they could go here for dinner and mix with that tourist crowd, I think that's when you know something's been successful. And in all of those projects, it was looking to the local culture and the local patterns and the local textures, and not ignoring them and not trying to contemporize them too much, but really kind of picking up on what is that thing that the locals enjoy just as much as a tourist is going to enjoy. Getting on a little Abra boat and moving from your hotel to dinner is an experience that nobody can deny is great. And being near water and that ability that water has to make a place feel more comfortable in the climate and just kind of soothe the feeling. So I think those projects set the tone for some of the newer stuff we've done in Dubai, like the Opera House. So obviously the Opera House, a big grand statement in the center of downtown Dubai near the Burj Khalifa, and a very modern building. But being able to kind of take that context and play with the idea of some of the traditional fishing patterns and waves on the water, and using that to kind of inform what is pretty much a hardscape plaza, but still bring a bit of a hospitality curve to that, because as people arrive to a show at the Opera House, they may want to wander around, they may want to flow in and out of that building and experience that. So in a much more urban context, we're still looking for natural influences to drive that cultural identity.
So using some of these hotels in Saudi Arabia or wherever in the Middle East as an example, how do you mesh Western expectations with maybe Middle East religious conservatism?
That's a tough one. I mean, I just came back from Saudi Arabia this week on some work that we're doing there. And I think that I had only been to Saudi for the first time in January. So for me, it was a new experience as far as that country within the Middle East. And all that you hear from everybody else that's there is that it's changing fast. You know, the culture's changing fast. I know from experience in the UAE that when we started going there, it was already changing pretty fast. The ability for men and women to mix in public, and a lot of that was already well underway. But I think that it's just being respectful. I think that there are some things, if we're designing in kind of daily mosques or uses for religious purposes, there's a way to design those in that people can get to them, arrive to them, and leave from them without feeling like everyone's watching. And it's just kind of respecting that quiet kind of privacy. Right.
How do you avoid accidentally doing something that's not culturally appropriate?
I mean, I think that all comes down to really good input from the client. I mean, the client, we trust that they know what they're building, and if they are trying to kind of move in a direction of something that's never been done, we try to really, look at some precedents where it has been done and make sure that we're sensitive to that.
Fascinating. All right. So, let's boil this down to some of the things that perhaps the traditional hotelier could do. The folks that are, right there in the center of the business, the mid-scale business. What are some ideas that might activate some of their outdoor spaces, make it look a bit more appealing, maybe heighten that curb appeal? Just whatever you're thinking.
Yeah, I think that there are really simple things that we can do, and I think that one is creating a language from the minute someone steps out of their car until the minute that they walk out to dinner, that they can kind of recognize a pattern of elements that make them feel at home. I mean, the greatest hotels, you start to introduce landscape at the front door that then appears again on a terrace or at your outdoor dining experience or whatever your kind of sequence of events wants to be. And it doesn't have to be big, and it doesn't have to be a lot of it. It just has to be apparent. And people feel comfortable when they're surrounded by nature. That is just, the way people react to the natural environment.
So maybe we should give everyone a quick lesson in biophilic design real quick.
Sure.
Right? So, biophilic design is the whole idea on the inside of bringing nature in, right? So on the outside, obviously, you're not bringing it in, but you're leveraging some of those things that really get to our core as people and our physical need to touch with natural elements as opposed to just looking at a parking lot.
Exactly. And it's meshing the two equally. I mean, what's happened in the furniture design industry is that indoor furniture and outdoor furniture is starting to look the same. And I think that mental breakdown for someone to be able to relax outside in a comfortable chair that they could find inside as well is actually like really changing the game a lot, because it's making that space more inviting, more comfortable, and just kind of generally more interesting to kind of be in. You don't feel like you're sacrificing any comfortability by going to the outdoor environment.
Right. Yeah. I over at the Houseman Resort Pool Club and Smokehouse, I took a nap outside in my backyard, and I just love being outside and being and touching with nature, but still having a lot of the conveniences that you would have at a resort. And yes, I just have so many people that come over to my house over the summer. We call it a resort over there. I've got terrible ADR. No, I'm getting 0 per night on a room. It's not making me any money. I got to pay for all the barbecue I make people, but no, I'm not going to have so much luck. So what are some of the trends that you see out there right now that are the most important and most relevant to you being able to make clients just go, wow.
Well, I think to build on what we were just talking about, I think that all the way back to a master planning point of view is that ecology is driving design, driving master planning, the way that we would take a large property and decide where does the hotel even sit on that property.
Right.
And I think that ecology is really kind of informing the way that we're designing urban environments more and more. And it's something that's not going to go away. At the end of the day, it's going to make the project more feasible, more interesting, and highlight the experience that a user can get. So I think that's one of the big trends.
And let me add on that eco side of it, it also shows corporate responsibility, and people more than ever only want to do business with companies they feel are ethical. So that already gives you a leg up way at the beginning of the planning process.
Exactly. No, we're seeing that's something that's here for the long run, and it has return on revenue. So it's easy to convince a client that it's the right move to do. Another thing that we're seeing with trends, and something that we've been doing at EDSA, is looking more towards themed environments. It's something that around the world is happening, as well as obviously in our backyard.
When you say themed environments, you don't mean a step back to 1990s Las Vegas. You mean something else, right?
Yeah, I mean the whole kind of idea of theme parks and the themed experience that we only see revenue growing on. We recently have acquired a kind of themed entertainment studio at EDSA that it's made up of landscape architects, but their ability is really in this kind of blue sky visioning. They can meet with a client and they can talk to that client about what is the story you're trying to tell with your property, right? Obviously, a client like Disney knows the story.
It's funny because I'm thinking Disney and I'm thinking, Pandora World that they built over there, because it's all landscape, natural and made up, but it's all landscape. And then I think, about the incredibly immersive environments that are being created by Universal and the soon to open in Florida Galaxy's Edge, which is partially open in Disneyland. So that, I guess, has changed the game for the hotel experience too.
Exactly. And this team of ours that's seated in our Orlando office, they're right there in all that action, but they're also looking at all overseas projects. And I think that one of the most interesting things is that a lot of these theme parks have a hotel component, so we are able to kind of take that expertise and all of that and pull it together. But our team on the themed entertainment are also just incredibly informed on the operations, right? It's like you can't design a theme park unless you know the loads, how many people are in that line for that ride, how is the back of house functioning, all of the hidden elements that make that place work and run at the end of the day. That's what our team is so great at. And then also this kind of conceptual thinking of the theming part of it, character development, creating a story through physical form. So we're excited about this team in our Orlando office, and we know that there's great things coming along and a lot of interesting teaming opportunities even within our own office. The way that we're set up as studios, we can rely on them and they can kind of plug into different projects that we're working on, even if it's not a wholly themed project.
Wow. Well, that's pretty cool. I feel like, we're kind of getting to the end right now, and you've been really terrific. So, how can we find EDSA? And don't call them EDSA.
EDSAplan.com is the website. We have a lot of great examples up there. I think that, of course, websites these days get old a little fast, but to follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, that information is really current. There's a lot of our culture, our kind of corporate culture shown there in what we're doing on a daily basis, what our employees are doing, where we are in the world, and it really kind of exhibits nicely the diversity that we have in-house in this company. We work globally, and we feel like the company represents a really kind of interesting slice of the global community.
Beautiful. Well, Derek, thanks so much for being here. And for all of you guys out there listening, remember, it's not just about what's going on inside your hotel right now. It's about the outside as well, from great curb appeal to creating incredible environments that are going to get people to want to come back time and time again and spend more money at different day parts. That's really what it's all about. Now, I want to thank you again for being here, Derek, because what a great, interesting interview that was. Now, stick around, because right after this break, man, we're going to have another great interview for you, so we'll be right back.
Have a question for your host, Glenn? Tweet him now at Traveling Glenn. No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast. We'll be right back.
Hey everybody, Glenn Hausman here. So you know that today's travelers have a growing interest in city center hyper-local hotel experiences, right? Tell me something I don't know. And I'm here to tell you how you can affordably tap into that market. That's because the Red Collection, offered by Red Roof, has been developed after comprehensive research into what these travelers truly desire. Modern, accessible, affordable accommodations in the heart of cities they love. This fast-growing group of upper mid-scale unique hotels is inspired by each city's vibe and culture. And every property in the Red Collection has its own distinctive name, customized property enhancement plan, and brand standards based on consumer wants rather than design mandates. How refreshing. Because all of this is backed by Red Roof, franchisees get the advantage of their owner-operator perspective, as well as a loyalty rewards program with more than 3 million members that just happens to be the richest in class and least expensive for franchisees like you. Plus, you'll be working with a company with a franchisee satisfaction rate at 89%. And those franchisees will tell you, genuine relationships, real results. It isn't just a slogan, it's actually how Red Roof does business. So to learn more about the Red Collection, I want all of you to contact Matt Hostetler. He's Red Roof's Senior VP of Development and Franchising, but you knew that already. Mr. Matt Hostetler, you can find him at 713-576-7426 or email him at mhostetler@redroof.com. That's MHOSTETLER at redroof.com. And tell him Glenn sent you.
Back to the show. It's No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast with your host, Glenn Hausman.
Jay Stein.
Mr. Hausman.
How are you?
I'm on fire, man.
Yeah, you certainly are. Man, you literally and figuratively, being that we're recording this in New York City on what is a sweltering July day.
Ugh, my least favorite weather.
I like the good Jew though. You really got that going on. So we could talk about Dream Hotel Group for this whole session, but I want to know what's going on with the music side of your world first, because I always thought it's really cool that you play music, you play in bands, you do all that kind of stuff. We've talked about it before, but I think it's so important to talk about how people kind of try to get that state of chill and kind of find ways to unwind, because you got a very demanding and stressful job.
I do. I find that it's just so much fun for me. I enjoy going to practice as much as playing gigs.
Yeah.
And it's a great balance. It lets me take my mind off of work for a little bit.
Yep.
And do something that I'm equally as passionate about. And it's just a lot of fun getting in front of a couple hundred people and a good night, and people are having fun, and
That's awesome.
Right.
So how do you find time to do that? And I ask you more because I'm seeking advice from you. One of the things that I find very difficult in my life is to prioritize my life, right? And I think a lot of professionals, especially the younger folks that are really trying to make an impression, have that problem too. So how do you create, if you even can, silos so you can actually disconnect and then be a stronger professional when you come back, if it's from a gig or a vacation or whatever?
Yeah, I do have a problem with it because there's other things that I'd like to do or try, and I tell myself no. Not that I want to be afraid of trying new things, but I'm limited, right? We're all limited. But my favorite saying is we all get the same 24 hours. It's what you choose to do with it. And I do get sleep, and I get my 6-7 hours pretty regularly, so I do get a decent amount of sleep.
All right.
But I use the time. It's very rarely that I'm just loafing.
Right.
I might catch a little bit of the end of the Yankee game or get bored with some CNN or something. And I'm constantly doing things.
Yeah.
And I narrowed it down to the things that I like to do, love to do, and that I need to do.
Right.
So my exercise and and I find these things that I'm really focused on help me stay fit, help me stay mentally fit also. Yeah. And young and working, I think, I'm not a kid anymore, 63 now. So
no way.
Yeah.
Seriously. And I don't mean to blow smoke up your butt, but you really look 10 years younger, if not more. I mean, I'm pushing on 50, and I'm like, this guy's younger than me over here.
So, I find that working at a high level and trying to run a company and do all those type of things forces me to stay focused, healthy. Right. I can't drink that much that night, and going to be able to focus the next day. And
it sucks. I have I have a rule that I had to put into my thing. I'm not allowed to have any fun the night before I do a speaking gig or any important meetings.
Yeah, I don't have that rule, but it may be a good one to initiate.
Yeah, well, I had to start putting in rules because it just started to become too exhausting, and I don't really like working at a deficit anymore. I can get through stuff, but I'd rather be on point. So last night before meeting with you, I made sure that I got a good night's sleep, and I would have gotten some exercise yesterday, but I had a little bit long of a day, and then it started pouring, and I couldn't do any laps in my pool that I had hoped to do. But
in his pool, you heard that, everybody, right?
I know.
In his pool.
Yeah, I know. And by the way, please advertise on the No Vacancy podcast because I got to pay for these things. But do you work out in the mornings, at night, in the afternoon?
I'm a night guy.
Yeah?
I'm a natural night owl to
Really?
begin with, and so I need. I can't get up early in the morning, but I have to. So I certainly am not going to get up another hour and a half earlier to get into the gym.
No,
So
I never understood those guys that get up at 4.
yeah, it won't work for me. So yeah, I quit work usually around 6:37. I get back out to my home in Livingston, New Jersey, typically around 7:45, and that's when I'll get to the YMCA where I'm a member there,
Nice.
and we'll do about an hour and 15
Wow.
of strength and cardio. Get home around 9, have a light dinner, hang out with my wife for a little
Yep.
bit, and then go play guitar for an hour or two. Get to bed about 12:30, and
Jesus.
that's my typical day.
And then you get up at, what, 5:36?
No, I get up around 6:45.
Okay.
6 out of the house by 7:15, 7:30, in the office by 9.
I don't know how you people do it because I need like 14 hours of sleep a night. I mean, I see all of you CEOs out there. You're so high performing, but you've got the one of the common traits I see is this physiology where you all don't need to sleep like I do.
6-7 hours is decent sleep. I know some people do it on 4 or 5.
Yeah, right.
One, I've just been reading too much that's not healthy,
Right.
so I try to avoid that. They say to try
Yeah,
to
that's
get at
right,
least
kids.
7.
Reading is unhealthy. I don't want my kids to hear this one.
No, that I read things
I know,
that say that it's
kidding.
unhealthy to sleep. So it's a short period of time.
Yeah. All right. So, we're talking about your late night thing. And of course, I feel you have sweet dreams. And I know, sorry, bad, really bad. But I know some of the sweet dreams that you guys have been having right now. It's a recently opened Dream Nashville, which seems to me not just a new property, but very symbolic of the overall direction where Dream Hotel Group seems to be headed this day.
Yeah, I mean, what a great city that's gotten so much attention. It's a strong demand city, great occupancy, runs very strong rates. So we're used to that being in L.A. and Hollywood and Miami. Right. So it didn't feel all that much different, even though it's the middle of the country and certainly very different than the coastal places that we're known for. But it has a great vibe, a strong corporate market as well.
Yeah, what is going on in that market? Because for 5 to 7 years now, everyone has been doing deals and developing in that, and I don't hear anybody saying, oops, we shouldn't have built this thing.
Yeah, well, I guess it's Austin and Nashville, I think, are the two middle America cities that are probably the strongest and the most up and coming. Yeah, it makes sense. The world has changed, and a lot of young people getting their lives together, deciding where they want to live. It had to be, New York, San Francisco, L.A.,
right.
Number of years ago, and that's changing.
Yeah.
And it's changing where companies are. You're seeing great, companies like Google and Amazon moving into these types of cities like Austin and Nashville. So the quality of life, it's a lot easier. You don't have to commute as much. It's a little less expensive. And so
a lot less expensive in this part of the country.
Yeah. So a lot of people are you don't need a car a lot of times, and so it's changing. The world's changing, and those are viable markets that people want to be in.
Right. So how much of that then is companies realizing that they could probably do better financially by moving to smaller markets, and how much of it is shifting demographics for youth in the sense that they want to be more like digital nomads, that they're not necessarily following those rules of New York and San Francisco.
Yeah,
et cetera,
so it's
et cetera.
both. It's definitely a combination of both, and I think the kids end up moving there, and the companies end up being there because they need the kids to be employed,
right.
And so it feeds off of each other.
Yeah, I kind of almost wish I was back in my 20s just to be able to go explore other cool places in the country. I feel like I would really get along in Austin because it's very New York-y kind of feel, the type of people that I'm used to, but also has awesome barbecue.
It's great. And I've spent a lot of time there the last couple of years, and great hotels, some great funky hotels, the San Jose, and it's just a really neat and smart, forward-thinking And Texas being such a huge state, and to be the capital, there's just tons of resources there. A great college town as well, so it's got a lot of things going for it.
Yeah, it certainly does. And you've just recently announced a brand new dream going to Memphis, so I'm starting to feel like you spent a lot of time on the coast. Now you're trying to fill on in the middle of this country here.
Well, first of all, let me correct you. We didn't announce it yet.
Oh.
We were holding that for you.
Hey!
So,
I just tried to make it seem like I knew what was going on. I didn't realize we're getting a scoop here, people.
You are getting a scoop.
Woo!
So we just signed it the day before yesterday.
All right.
We haven't gotten the press release done yet. So
well, take your time on that one because this is not going to go until next week. So. Oh, that's pretty cool. So tell me a little bit about that project. What makes it different? What are you thinking about in terms of what that product is going to be like and what it represents, I think, for this shift that you're starting to take now as you're moving to more of those secondary markets.
Yeah, and that's what you were just saying. So this is a little bit of a shift.
Yeah.
It's not like we filled in everything that we needed. We still need to get in some important cities.
So name some of those so we can get people calling you right now.
Boston, Washington, San Francisco, London, Seattle. Those are some real important ones that we need to be in, and I hope to announce some of those pretty soon as well.
Great.
We're getting pretty close in Boston, but we can't announce anything yet.
Yep.
So now I think with that being done and getting Nashville done, I thought it was appropriate to start taking a brand like Dream into some other markets like a Memphis, Charlotte, other places that we're looking at. I think it makes perfect sense, and the timing now is right. And as we said, people look, very differently at these cities. They have a great vibe. They have great foodie. We've been in Durham now. It's 2-year anniversary yesterday.
Congratulations!
We celebrated the 2-year for the Unscripted in Durham.
Wow!
And when we first started, we didn't know, but that's a great town with lots of stuff going on.
Right.
And people, our kind of people that care about style, people that care about great food and beverage, nightlife, health and wellness. And there's many, many places like that, not all around the country, but all around the globe.
Right.
The world is so much smaller. Everybody has this access to the same internet. Everybody sees style. Everyone hears music. If you care about those things, you can get access to it no matter where you are. So it's changed. It's the world is dramatically different than it was.
Since you took the position as CEO of Dream Hotel Group, how has culture shifted to make you start to think about some of the tweaks that you need to do with some of the hotels that you have out there? I mean, you introduced the Unscripted brand, for example, so I have a feeling that might have something to do with it.
Yeah, so things have changed. I have a 25-year-old daughter, so I kind of follow her and her friends and see where their mindset is at. Unscripted is kind of like an aspirational brand. It's a little lower price than Dream, so it gives people that want the Dream type of atmosphere, great food and beverage, highly stylized, but just not as expensive typically.
So I would guess it's not as expensive for ownership groups to get involved in it as well.
100%.
Right.
And that product will work in secondary locations like a Durham, but as well as primary locations.
Yeah, I mean, you're bringing Unscripted to Belize, for example, which is pretty cool, and Birmingham out in UK. So we are looking at a number of different markets for the Unscripted brand. We have some opportunities internationally and certainly here throughout North America. So what are the differences that owners should understand between Unscripted and Dream so they can have a better understanding if they want to get involved in one of these brands?
So look, they all have a great lifestyle feel to them.
That's kind of the I would say the entry fee at this point, right?
And we don't do any select serve,
limited
serve. They're all going to have full service. They're all going to have some kind of signature restaurant.
I made that mistake one time. I don't want to make that again, but yes, definitely full service.
They'll all have a great beverage program. They'll all have a great coffee program. They'll all be activated for the community, and for the community first. Believe it or not, and the hotel guest second.
No, I believe it because
now people do.
I think that's really essential. But go through that, and then I want to get back to that particular point.
Yeah, so Dream will stay more in those primary markets. As I said, we are now moving into other areas, but not truly into the small secondary markets, unless they have a real vibrant nightlife and a part of town where there's street traffic and you could generate enough locals to come in and really get a good vibe in the place.
Yeah, so let's talk about that local thing. Really essential, and it seems to be something that everybody knows has to be done, but not something everybody has been able to master.
Because I don't think they really commit to it. You
Right.
know, they say it on paper. They know it's the right words to
Right.
use these days. But if you notice when I said before, we look at that community and the neighborhood first, and
Right.
the hotel guest second, which is again easy to say, but hard to really commit to.
Well, then how does
I'm
that
not sure
inform
you're going to
you
hear
then?
the big brands
Yeah.
say, "Oh, we care more about the local community we're in for
Right.
the amenities that we're going to do, and not so much our hotel guests."
Right.
But it's true. That's how we do it, and as I often say, I never see hotel guests come downstairs and see good-looking locals hanging out and having fun and not enjoy
Right.
the atmosphere.
Well, I look forward to someone opening a brand for lots of ugly locals, because
Yeah.
then I'll feel more comfortable hanging out in there. But until then, I guess I'll hang out with
that
the
might
with
be
the
our
gorgeous
newest
ones.
brand, Glenn. You got to take a look at that.
All right. So then, I kind of feel like you have to get those locals in, but then you also got to get the folks in the building to spend the kind of money. It kind of creates a little bit of a virtuous circle. So how do you program a place in order to get the local influencers into the place to begin with? Is it just a great bar? Is it just great food? Do you do local programming? How does that all come
Yeah, and
together?
it's not really the influencers. We're
Yeah.
getting the locals.
Yeah.
The people that live and work in that area. It's great to get the influencers come in and
Yeah.
and do their
get everyone
social
else to
about
come,
it.
right, yeah.
But really, we need to strike a chord for the community that we're in.
Right.
It's by going out and we do market studies. We go out, we spend a few months in the market, understand what's working there, what is there now, what is there not there now, what trends are coming up, and then we make our best guess, but with real science
Right.
of what we think will work. And as you know, we work with some great food and beverage partners, but we also run a lot of the food and beverage ourselves. I think I told you last time
Yep.
in Nashville, we're running all 6 of the outlets ourselves.
That's amazing.
And I think you'll see more of that, though it's not mandated that we'll run everything. So
Yeah.
we'll still look at using partners where we think it's the right opportunity.
So how do you feel if it's the right opportunity? Because you've partnered with Tao forever and a day, it feels like, and those folks have become a dominant force since the relationship was formed with Dream Hotel Group. I mean, it's one of those companies that people don't even realize that they're so quintessentially important to like the Las Vegas nightclub scene, for example. And they were recently bought by MSG, right? And that whole side of the company is starting to transform now because of that relationship. So why go with Tao Group? Why go with you guys? How do you think about what would be right and for each particular property?
So it depends on the market,
Yeah.
right? I don't see Tao going in and doing an 80-seat restaurant in Memphis.
Yeah,
But I
right.
certainly see us going in and
Yeah.
doing a great 80-seat signature restaurant in Memphis. So that kind of takes its course right there automatically. If we go into a market where we think it's going to have a big improvement, bringing Tao in is costly. They're going to make a good fee. They do a tremendous job. And we've got to find a way for the ownership, the owner of the hotel to make money, for us to make money.
Of course.
So it depends on the volume, the size, the location. But yeah, that's all part of the study.
Right.
We have a few different options. One, recommend just straight leasing, which is usually the last thing we'll ever recommend. 2, we may manage it and come up with the concepts completely ourselves. We may license a concept and still run it ourselves, or we may bring in an operator like Serafina or Tao Group or others. So, there's a lot of cards on the table.
Yeah, there are a lot of cards on the table and a lot of decisions for you folks to make. But I like what I'm hearing, the sense that when you're working with the developers, you really have the cliched kit of parts. You can take from here, you can take from there to really build something that's most effective, efficient, and hopefully profitable for that particular property.
Right. And we say, what makes this hotel the most fun, exciting hotel in the market that it's in?
Right.
We start with that premise, then we work backwards. So how do we make that?
Yeah.
And that's where the study goes in. We do a lot of the work ourselves. Sometimes we'll hire people that we know a market better than we do and pay them a fee, have them do some initial legwork for us. So when we go in there, we hit the ground running with some really brilliant information by people that live and breathe that market already.
Right. Could you give me an example, let's say for a property that's already open, so we're not spilling the beans on anything, about a great insight that you came across that helped kind of affect the programming for the property?
Yeah, so when we worked in Nashville, we didn't actually hire this group, but it's a group known as Strategic, and they're local in Nashville. They happen to be investors in the hotel, but they didn't want to be, and they're probably the best food and beverage operators in the city, but they didn't want to operate anything in the hotel.
Right.
So we had access right there to the guys. They do some great concepts, a bowling alley. They do food at the minor league ballpark there. They do this restaurant called the Catbird Seat that I think only has 10 seats and the highest, most expensive restaurant by far in Nashville.
Right.
So these guys are just brilliant. They run, I think, 10, 11 different venues in the city. So it was just great to have them as advisors to us, also to help us find some labor, which is always difficult. But in the end, they were helpful, but really we ended up doing the work like we normally do. And they gave us some pointers here and there and steered us in the right direction. But, we have to go and do our normal work. We've brought in some additional VPs of food and beverage over the last year or two.
Cool.
Guys coming out of SBE, guys coming out of Tao, some of the best operators.
Wow. And for those who don't know, SBE and Tao have really got great food and beverage programs. They really seem to tap into not just the zeitgeist, but help kind of move forward that food dialogue to get people interested in new things.
Right. As I said, as we're trying to grow more internally, not only internally, but more, we've brought some of these key guys on. And as I said, a key player from Hillstones, that's a concept that we love. We love that straight down the middle, just great quality. We're not looking to do celebrity chef kind of concepts and, very, very high-end type concepts, even in our higher-end hotels. We just want straight down the middle, great quality.
Not to say anything negative about that celebrity chefs and the culture that surrounds that, but I almost feel like over the last 20 years, the American public in particular has become so well informed by food that while celebrity chefs was a great gateway to get people to learn and understand, I think we're almost getting into a post-celebrity chef era when it comes to what people's expectations are for dining.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you, though I think they still have their place.
Absolutely.
We're sitting right now in the Lambs Club restaurant with Jeffrey Zakarian.
Yeah, well, I feel like
great partner.
I feel like he was here before he was a celebrity chef, honestly, because this deal was done, I think, even before Borgata was, right?
And before he became the Iron Chef.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And now he's on 3 or 4 TV shows every week.
Yeah.
And but a great partner for us, and has taught us a lot about food and beverage, and eaten a lot of good meals with Jeff.
Yeah, I'm sure you have. Oh, man, that's pretty awesome. So, I feel remiss if we didn't talk about what's going on with Chatwell Hotels, one of which we're here in right now on West 44th Street.
Exactly. So we've signed a couple recently. We've got the one going up in San Miguel Allende, which we signed about a year ago in Mexico. And we just announced our second Chatwell in Mexico in Valle de Guadalupe.
Oh, wow.
Which is, for the users who don't know, it's like kind of the Napa Valley, the wine-growing district of,
I did not know that.
Of Mexico. It's beautiful. It's cool. The temperature, it's up in the mountains. It's not very hot like when you think of Mexico.
Right.
We're also doing a Dream in that same marketplace.
Yeah, you actually have 4 deals going on right now.
We do.
In
we have an
Mexico.
Unscripted in Tulum. So those are the 4 in Mexico. And we're hopeful to announce a Dream in Mexico City maybe in the next couple of months.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's been a great market for us. And we continue to grow. We've looked at other areas. Nothing else that we're ready to announce. Hopefully Mexico City.
I feel like Mexico City, though, you could have, like here in New York City, multiple properties with multiple brands because it's twice
people.
the size of of New York. Yeah, it's pretty impressive out there. But I want to do a little check-in. What's going on with the Chatwell Lodge in upstate there?
So Chatwell Lodge, we're still working on our permits and on more importantly on a design. It's a very unique design. There was no way we were going to make the 50th anniversary of Woodstock, which is next month in August. So
it doesn't look like Woodstock's going to make the 50th anniversary either.
We're struggling with that.
For those of you who don't know, they've been trying to put up concerts. 3 different production groups have now pulled out of it in various times.
But they are doing a series of shows on the weekend at the Bethel site, the original site. Mm-hmm. I think Santana's playing the Saturday night.
That's cool.
And some other acts over that 3 days. So, yeah, they'll do some great stuff.
And bring it back to music for a second. I'm really annoyed that I still haven't seen Santana in Vegas. It's killing me. Every time I'm there, he's not there. But he's always there. I don't know what the problem is. I really got to go see him.
Yeah, it's one of my guitar heroes. I think I've seen the different versions of Santana probably 40, 50 times.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I thought I thought, I've seen one band over 200 times, but everybody goes and sees Fish to see Santana 40 to 50 times. That's pretty amazing. So, I would love to see you guys get some of the Guitar Heroes play an opening night party sometime. That's what I'm thinking. But just make sure you don't forget to invite me to that one. So, overall, how are you feeling about things? I find one of the interesting things is the major companies, the big ones that we all know, seem to be getting bigger and bigger and bigger in this unbelievable time of economic growth that the hospitality industry has been enjoying. But the smaller companies like you guys, there seems to be so much room for you to play in and fill in those spaces that the major brands can't seem to be doing. So, in your position as CEO of Dream Hotel Group, what are the advantages to not being one of those major companies out there?
Well, the easy part is a lot of developers that we work with don't want that.
Right.
They don't want to go in and talk to some important guys from some of the big companies and then get handed down to 3 layers below that and work with them to do their hotel, that it's their one hotel and their one market.
3 layers below, though, great name for a band from the 1990s. Sorry.
But so, when they come to us, I meet with everybody that we're talking to, and they meet our top 5 or 6 guys on our development team, our technical service advisement team, and those are the people that work on their projects, whether it's an unscripted or a dream or a chatwell, right through to opening. So I think, there's a certain kind of developer that likes that and is only going to do that.
Right.
They're not going to just go work with a big brand. It's not just a matter of, how do I make this hotel be successful? They want to build a hotel in their particular market that has their signature that they wanted and looking to do a great lifestyle hotel and a hotel that speaks to the community that they're in. And so, we're one of that short list of types of groups that they'll come to talk to. I think we're changing in that, as they're talking about going into Memphis and now being in Nashville and looking at other markets. So we're trying to grow, quote unquote, fast in our way by going into these other markets, even with our brand Dream, which I think, a few years ago we wouldn't have done that, just like, whether it's Ace or Edition, where or W, I'm not sure they would put their brands, in some of the markets that we're now starting to look at. But we believe that, there's great demand for lifestyle as long as there's enough of a vibe in that particular market, like we believe in Memphis and others. So we see that as a way to grow, not like the speed of a Hilton or Marriott, but a lot quicker than the brands that I can mention that typically will announce one deal a year or one deal every other year. So we're looking to become a different style of a great lifestyle brand.
How long does it take to do these deals? I'm sure some come together really quick, some take forever, but on average, how long does it take?
Typically, from the time we source that there is a deal to be had, I would say 4 to 6 months probably to get it signed up.
That's pretty. I would say quick.
Well, that's just to get it signed up.
Yeah.
Either it falls off and it doesn't get signed up, or it gets signed up. Now, some would take a year or maybe 15 months. Of course. And some get done in 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, I know. I always hate when people ask me the type of question I just asked you because there's so many variables. There's no real answer.
But the real problem is, do all of them get built? And the answer is no.
Right.
So even though they get signed and they get funded, your technical service parts get funded, but they either don't get their large funding or they can't complete all the equity or all the debt, or other reasons. They couldn't get their permits, whatever it may be. And so we're seeing maybe 20% of those deals that get signed don't get built. And the ones that do get built, after they take an average of 6 months to sign the deal, are anywhere from 2.5 to 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, you've got,
them built and
you have a property opening in Buckhead in 2022, so that's probably been in the works for a little while already.
Yeah, we only signed that one late last year, and not in the ground yet, but should be in the ground probably by the end of the year.
Are you worried that as you continue to try to grow the properties that it might take longer to build these properties because so much construction is going on in the country and in some markets it might be tough to build things at a reasonable pace?
I don't think so. Hotels are actually slowing down. Other things are busy. Hotels are slowing down the pace. But the cost of building them is problematic.
Yeah, right.
It's been going up dramatically, and this leads me into something that we haven't talked about yet, but we're looking at modular as a way to build, not only for unscripted, which would make a lot of sense, but even for Dream and perhaps even for Chatwell. We're talking with modular companies now that could do products that you would never know,
right?
That they're modular.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, Jay, I just recently did a podcast with somebody in a hotel for a mainstream brand that they just did the bathroom as a modular component. It never even occurred to me that you don't have to do the whole thing. You could just do elements of it if it makes financial sense.
Right, and there's savings in a couple places. One is the speed to do it.
Right.
2 is to do it in a factory controlled environment. And 3 would be the cost, the actual cost. Right. You could build them a lot cheaper somewhere else and ship them over. The total impact, that varies.
Yeah.
The kind of modular that we're looking at is a robotic modular. So not only is it done modularly,
right,
but it's done like a car assembly line.
Wow.
So very few human bodies are out there building, and you typically can get, I think 8 rooms a day can come off this assembly line.
8 rooms a day.
And you stack them up on a truck and you ship them out and you put them in like building blocks.
Yeah, totally. I always think back, whenever I talk modular, I always have to talk about, I've got this great book that was published in 1971 about building Walt Disney World, and the pictures of them building a temporary hotel and taking, which was a modular hotel, but everything settled in the ground and they couldn't pull the rooms out. But originally, the whole room just slid right in. I got these great pictures in this book of them lifting them up on a crane, and the whole idea was to renovate it, pull out the room, and then just put in a brand new one, right? So to me, I always love the futuristic fantasy of modular, and now 40 years later, it seems to be becoming standard. But Jay, I want to talk to you about one more topic today. What if someone wants to partner with you guys, but they seem to be more of a renegade? They seem to have more of a vision for themselves. Are you able to just go in and perhaps just manage properties as opposed to having your brand's names on
So
it?
we're not looking to pick up third-party management contracts for just one-off hotels or even to manage other people's other brands. But what we are looking to do is introducing a soft brand,
right,
and it will be known as by Dream Hotel Group.
Oh,
so
cool.
It could be the Glen by Dream Hotel Group in a particular market.
So this is great because at the the Houseman Resort Pool Club and Smokehouse, I was just joking around in my last podcast that I'm getting terrible ADR. I'm getting about 0 on this. So all this company comes over and they're not doing anything for me. So maybe I could partner with you and you could get me a better rate.
So as a Smokehouse, this is a cannabis hotel that you're talking about?
No. Well, okay. Now now it's funny you should say that because now I could smoke ribs and we can smoke the legal cannabis, but not in New York. We're not allowed to smoke here in New York, but maybe we could do the Dream Seattle or something like that. Anyway, go on.
But yeah, so we are looking at introducing our soft brand by Dream Hotel Group. Mm-hmm. It would still be a highly stylized product. It would still have great food and beverage. It may be an existing hotel that has a strong name to begin with, so to take on one of our other brands isn't something an owner may want to do. It may be a project that he already has a strong name for. Sometimes we find owners that want to name it after their daughter or whatever it may be, and here we have that opportunity to still find a way to work with them as long as it's going to fit within what people know to be a Dream Hotel Group type of hotel. So I think you'll see some of those announcements coming over the next 12 months.
Excellent. So, as the industry has been going gangbusters for 10 years straight right now, right? How do you keep yourself sharp to know that it's your skill set that's making progress as opposed to just the general upward market of the hotel business?
Yeah, so, this whole industry going strong for a number of years hasn't really meant that much to me. I mean, we have a number of hotels in New York City that hasn't been a very strong market over those same 10 years. So we've been honing those skills and finding ways to keep our head above water. And I've been doing this for 37 years, so I've been through a number of these tougher times, and So we're always looking to maximize profits. And when we're opening these new hotels for new ownership groups, they, a lot of times their projections are very strong.
Right.
So even though the hotel and the market, like in Nashville, is where it may be, it still may not reach the goals that the owner had, given to their financing company or whatever. So we're always forced to really maximize those profits and to be creative and to find things that are not working and to shed them and to bring in new ideas, new programming, new activations to keep it fresh. The people that visit our hotels are not looking for things that are stagnant and boring. So it keeps us on our toes.
It sure does. So how do you make sure that you're plugged into all of the trends that are out there so you're making the right decisions?
I hire good people. I'm not the hippest guy in the world. I do read a lot and listen to podcasts and things like that. Of course, the Houseman podcast that I get every Sunday night around 7 p.m. So.
Yeah, sign up for the newsletter. Text the word hotel to 66866. Thank you for that, Jay.
You can give me the $100 later.
Yeah.
As I said, I have a daughter that's 25, so I pick her brain. A lot of times I will send her things that my marketing team is sending to me and ideas they have, and I send it to her and I say, hey, what do you think?
Yep.
And so I get some perspective there. But the first thing I said, hire people. So, I've hired some great talent. Talent that really have their finger on the pulse of what's going on, not only in the hotel world, but in the hip world as it is. So that's been a big part of our success, and fortunately, we've been able to attract a lot of great talent.
Excellent. I think that's great. Anything else that you want to wrap up with, Jay?
No, Glenn, I think we're good. I gave you the one scoop on
I know
on the Dream.
I'm very
in
excited
Memphis.
about that.
I don't know if I did say earlier, but we did celebrate the 2-year anniversary just this week for Durham Unscripted, and Hollywood was the week before that, so that was 2 years also.
No,
so we're very
that's
excited.
2 years already for Hollywood.
Very excited about the 2-year anniversaries for those two hotels.
I would have sworn it was only a year.
Nope.
I cannot believe it. Wow, that's absolutely amazing. So, Jay, you've earned the good opportunity for a good shameless plug, sir. So how can people find Dream Hotel Group and engage you guys?
Well, you can find us at dreamhotelgroup.com.
Easy enough.
And you could reach out to me on there or to David Cooperberg, our Chief Development Officer. And we've got a whole team of development people to help developers that may want to do deals in different parts of the country and the world.
Great. This has been an absolutely fascinating conversation. I want to thank everybody for once again listening to this episode of the No Vacancy Podcast. I've had a great time talking to CEO Jay Stein. So I will be back next week. That is unless I decide to go out on the road with Jay to go catch some Santana shows. See you all guys soon.
Thanks, Glenn.
Thanks so much for listening to No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast, with your host, Glenn Hausman, online at rouse.media, on Twitter at Traveling Glenn, and on Facebook.com/Glenn.Hausman. We'll catch you next time.